Welcome to the Enterpriser Podcast. Today we're here with Sara Phelan, who is a speaker at the Enterpriser Conference coming in April. Sara is a business strategist and coach, founder of Evaluate Evolve, and a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. She's also a founding partner of Growth 10, which is an advisory mastermind group that's based out of the U.S. How are you today, Sara?
I'm great, thanks.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So before we jump into anything too deep, I was hoping that maybe you could kind of break down what Evaluate Evolve does for the entrepreneurs. Now, do you work with the people everywhere, or is it just in your region, or what is Evaluate Evolve? Tell us more about that.
Sure. Evaluate Evolve is kind of a passion project for me.
Okay.
I came from a corporate training background and then became an entrepreneur. And after I was an entrepreneur, I became a business broker, and I was selling businesses. And it was only then that I realized how much I really didn't know. And I had to get really, really clued in quickly on what it was I had and where the skeletons and all the closets were. You can't sell a house with a roof on it. Well, the same goes for a business. So I created a framework for myself to evaluate businesses, and I thought, gosh, this is great. But I couldn't quite figure out in 2011 how to turn that or share it with other entrepreneurs. And I tried again in 2016, and the technology really wasn't there. And COVID gave me the time and the technology resources to create an online platform for training and coaching, as well as peer mentorship for entrepreneurs. I think there's really two problems we have as entrepreneurs. One is that we don't know what we don't know. And the second is that we don't talk about it enough. Mm-hmm. So Evaluate Evolve is really just about that. It's an online training with coaching and peer mentorship so that we get we talk about the strategies and we learn how to implement them, and we help people move their businesses forward. Essentially, it's making sure that the house has everything that it should have in order for us to continue forward. Getting
your house and your house affairs in order. That makes sense. That's interesting. I think actually we talked about this possibly the last time we talked. In 2016, I've been an entrepreneur pretty much my whole life. But I've also failed a lot over and over and over again, really. It was in 2016. I had tried to, at the time, home delivery of food was not really a thing. There were some small companies in Canada doing it. The only real big player was Instacart at the time, and me and a couple of colleagues had an idea to create this business where we would deliver farm fresh organic food to your door within 24 hours. We wanted to call it Freshify. And I mean, if I had known what I know now about business, I mean, it would have been a phenomenal. But we knew nothing really. We had an idea, and we started meeting and trying to make it work, and it didn't. We couldn't get any investors, and we had a terrible business plan. And so I gave up, and I started working for another company, and I started working in the events industry for another company. And that's when the idea for the first entrepreneurial development conference came from. Was I realized that I had no idea what I was doing as an entrepreneur. I was like, how can I learn more for myself? And so the conference actually I was just hoping to bring a bunch of people together so that I could sit in the audience and I could watch and learn some stuff. But then like 600 people came to the first conference, and we were like, wow, this in itself is a really good business. Like, this is a great idea, right? And so it was we took off from there. But yeah, it's one of the plights, especially of early entrepreneurs, is that you don't know what you don't know. And so, learning and development is crucial. It's key. What would you say are like some of the main characteristics of a successful entrepreneur, somebody who's doing well in business? They've gotten to the point where they're going to sell their business. What are some of the characteristics that person has as an entrepreneur that you see on a regular basis?
Oh, good question. And this comes up all the time, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Rolls around in the social space. that grit, don't give up. From the moment that you start a new business till you're probably about 5 years old, you're going to change 5 ways to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
There is no straight road for anything. And, you said it yourself, like we just fail. We have to fail in order to get to that next. So I say grit is, really one of the keys, but continuous learning and being open and having that clear vision. Industry Canada put out an article a couple years ago, and it said, the 3 main reasons that small businesses fail is number 1, lack of vision.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, lack of knowledge. And number 3, lack of experience. So, that's pretty profound. If those are the top 3 things that we're failing for, you know what? Somebody has to have that North Star. We can't hire people to lead our businesses without giving them direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
For me, that's probably, the ones that I sort of keep coming back to, but staying with it is key.
Vision, knowledge, and experience. And experience we really only get from failure. I mean, and succeed, winning too. But I believe personally, like I actually wrote an article in Forbes about this, about failure being your only real best path to success. And I mean, all the biggest lessons that I learned were through my massive catastrophic failures, which I've had more than enough of.
We all have. Yes. And that too, you asked me, the first question you asked me was, where did Evaluate Evolve come from? And it really came from my failures.
Yeah.
I became a business broker after I exited my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned what I should have known from the beginning, and I had no idea.
Right.
So, I took a lot of advice and listened to a lot of people who gave me great intentions, but they didn't know either. And they were trying to help me, but it didn't work that way because they don't know what they don't know, but they're trying to, everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, exactly. True. Yeah. But the only real opinion that matters is your own. And I mean, that comes from the third thing, which was experience, right? That's definitely a testament to what I think every especially young entrepreneurs need to. You should be trying to learn something new every day. I still do. Most days I spend at least 10 or 15 minutes on YouTube watching one of the folks that I look up to in the business community or in the the international business community. I'm trying to always learn something because I've just failed so many times that I know there's still stuff out there that I don't know. I feel a lot stronger now than I ever have before as an entrepreneur, but and I think also too is being able to, I think another really important thing is being able to accept when you aren't able to do something, right? That was one of the biggest problems that I had for years as an entrepreneur, is that I wanted to do everything because I think everything is cool with regards to running your own business, right? Even accounting and human resources stuff, like it's cool to be able to do it yourself, but you've got to be able to know when you're not good at it. I'm not the guy that you should leave the money with, right? And I'm not the guy that should be doing the HR stuff. Like that stuff, I don't have enough passion for that sort of thing. And so I have other people to do that for me now because I always wanted to do everything, right? And I'm more of the guy that's got like 1,000 ideas, and then I need a couple of people around me to be like, Liam, that's not a good idea, man. Like, let's stick to the plan, because I just, my brain is 700 ways to Sunday, most of the time with regards to, we should do this. So I need people around me to keep me grounded and to do the stuff that I'm really not very good at. Entrepreneurs need to be able to say, okay, I'm not good at that. Let's push that off to somebody else, right?
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? I think the bigger problem with that is that we're still solely responsible for whatever they do.
Yeah, for sure.
So, entrepreneurs, I sort of say, everyone says, well, you're a business coach. Can't you tell me what to do? And I'm like, no, that's not what I do. I'm here to tell you what you don't know so that you can go find the right answers for you.
Yeah.
I'm here to ask the questions. And I always sort of come back to that space where, that was me in my business. Where was I going to go and what was I going to do and what challenges did I have, So I get it. I know that we're all sort of going by the seat of our pants, and what worked last year is not working this year.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep sort of evolving, but, what does that actually look like and where are we going to go from here? And I think it's, everyone says, well, it's the business plan, Sarah. And I keep saying, no, the business plan is irrelevant. It's really the idea that we have to plan. It's the strategy. You can't just make all these action plans without, a North Star or an idea of where you're going. And I agree. I spend every day, listening to people that I follow on social that really lift me up every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need it. It doesn't, I've been an entrepreneur now for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you have the highs and you have the lows, but you always need that coach or somebody to point you in the right direction or set you straight.
Yeah. Well, that's the important thing. I think you hit the nail on the head is, I get into this conversation quite a bit. I got into consulting quite a bit during COVID and stuff like that because the events business was just, there was no events going on, right? And so I ran into a lot of situations where people were asking me, okay, so, what should I do? And that's kind of like not like, I mean, as a consultant, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I like the fact that you've asked me what should I do. But at the end of the day, I think that an entrepreneur should know how to do everything in their business. Like they should understand how everything works. They should have their finger on the pulse of everything. Now, you may not be good at it or you may not like doing some of the things, but you still should know how to do it, right? A lot of the times I would get asked to do marketing projects, and the entrepreneur, the business owner, like they wouldn't even understand where they would go on the Facebook platform to look at their own ads, right? And so I ended up doing a lot more teaching than consulting because I believe personally as an entrepreneur that you need to at least know how to do it, right? You can't have somebody that's there and just, does that part for you and you just cross your fingers that it's going to work all the time. You can't do that. It is important to be able to delegate those things off, especially if you're not great at it, but you need to at least understand it, right? So I ended up teaching more than doing the consulting projects from my own personal standpoint of like, I'm thinking, okay, well, you got to know how to do this, man. Like what happens if I die tomorrow, right? And your Facebook ads are running and you don't even know how to get into Facebook Ad Manager or go to your Google Tag Manager. Like you don't know where those are. What happens if I'm gone tomorrow? What would you do, right? You would just be stuck, right? You got to know how to do this stuff and then I'll do it for you so that you can know whether or not I'm doing a good job, right?
Well, and it has to carry on. Once you're out of the picture as a consultant, you take that knowledge with you.
Yeah.
You've done all the research, you've organized it all, and the entrepreneur gets the final report and they sit so pretty on the shelf within the fancy binders.
Yeah.
But they don't open them, and the same goes for the accountant. As a business broker, one of the biggest sort of, oh my gosh, moments I had was every time I went in to see someone, if they gave me the vanilla envelope, still sealed, they'd never opened it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, do you even know what's going on?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they were bad entrepreneurs. It was that they just didn't know what to look at and they didn't know how to read their numbers and they didn't understand what it was. And I think that's sort of the basis of where I'm coming from now. And that, I do online training so that they can really dive into what those strategies are and evaluate themselves.
Yeah.
And then, and it's a checklist. It's a giant checklist because, if you don't know what that strategy is, well, maybe it's something you should look into, and my HR policy or sort of module is 150 plus questions. That's it. It covers everything from, hiring to onboarding to retention to, performance management, but it's just about the strategies because once you know what the strategy is, you can plan for it.
Yeah.
And that's the same, we have to get back to the basics of understanding fundamentally what are those best practices.
Mm-hmm.
How do we move the business forward?
How is what would you say is what are some of the better ways that an entrepreneur can evaluate their own performance?
Oh, it's a humbling experience.
Yeah, I bet.
I can say from experience. I didn't, I'd always, in my first business I opened in 2005, I'd had experience in my industry. I knew what I was doing. I'd managed businesses like that. But owning your own business is a completely another story.
Yeah.
So many mistakes, so many lessons learned. But coming out the other end and sitting with a business broker who was, I'm talking to them and I'm asking them, okay, so what do I have? Do I have anything to sell? What's the value? Like, I don't know. It was so humbling. It took me back to, elementary school when the teacher was saying, how do you spell your name? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is your baby. And everyone says, well, this is a business, Sarah. It's just business. It's not personal. I'm like, no, this is the most personal experience of your entire life. And your business is your baby. I always said it was my third child that didn't scream as much as it should.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. We have to take a really big step back. And Liam, there's no right or wrong here, but it's getting about really asking yourself the tough questions. And I wrote an article in Forbes specifically about that, and going through, my 8 module framework, getting really clear on everything from your leadership to your revenue streams and what you offer, how you make that service happen. And then you got to look at it deeper and say, okay, who's involved in that process? What's my team? And whether internal or external.
Yep.
And what's the customer experience like? I'm a real believer in that pragmatic sort of follow through, and that it really has to be consumer led. And if we want to make change and we really want to stay relevant, we have to be Madonna. We have to change all the time.
Yeah.
You sort of have to just keep going with where you are. But you can't forget that every one of your decisions comes down to financials. There is being able to read your own financials is probably one of the most important aspects of being an entrepreneur to me, because you have to understand your entire business to understand that story.
Yeah, true.
And sales and marketing, everyone says, well, that's where all the effort is. That's where we put everything. That's how we get customers. And I'm like, yeah, that's one of 8 modules in my mind. It's just one. So what's going on with everything else to make that work? Because if, it's like a 3-legged stool. You don't have everything solid, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
What are some of the other modules?
So so starting with the beginning, it's so module 1 is all about leadership, and it's all about the business. It's all about, your corporate structure. It's about your vision and your mission. And a lot of people really mix that up. I mean, your vision is where you want to be in 10 years. And your mission is how you're going to accomplish it and what you're going to be to your customers. And then who's surrounding you? Who's on that journey? Who are your mentors? How are you working on your business? And then we get into the revenue streams. Then we talk about operations and that org chart, as a solopreneur, it's always so hard to imagine how many hats you actually wear.
Yeah. True.
We're doing everything, and it's all in here. There's no fluffing it. You're doing everything, but you're doing it innately. So if you want to take something off your plate, or you want to give it to someone else, you need to understand the whole structure of your company in order to, and what you would do for your customers in order to start peeling off or delegate it. And as your team starts to grow, that gets more confusing if you haven't got that clear.
Yeah.
So, really setting that up. And then again, the team is after that, who's doing what and what are the responsibilities and how are you supporting them? I was a corporate trainer in leadership and customer service and sales with telecom industry, and coming from big corporate to running my own business, I brought a lot of that with me. But at the same time, I just thought everybody knew what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
Those were things that I learned early, and I'm so grateful to have had, incredible opportunities with the likes of TELUS and Nextel out of the States to sort of really set foundationally what that customer experience and, how you interact with people really should happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about the people, it's about your team. If you treat your team right, they treat your people right.
True. Very true.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, when you have a small team of 3 or 4 or 5, sometimes we don't think about lifting them up as much as we necessarily should.
Mm-hmm.
Or we complain that they're not pulling their weights, or they're not this, or they're not that. But have we really set them up for success? So that's a big part of that piece. And then after team, customer experience, and then sales and marketing. And sales and marketing isn't about just your social media. I can't tell you the number of clients I've worked with, Liam, that have said to me, well, I've spent $30,000 or $40,000 on this website and all this online marketing, Sarah, and it didn't get me one customer. Well, no, it's not going to, because we build customers by building relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get a customer online just because you got them, you're some lucky. That was a fluke.
Yeah.
But we only do business with people we know, like, and trust.
Yep. Very true.
So, and then after that, I put financials as number 7.
Mm-hmm.
So everything rolls into financials. So everything goes in succession. And then the last one is strategic planning. Because now that you know what you know, how are you going to fix it?
Right.
What does that look like going forward? And it also, for those people that are doing a startup, or they're looking at, investing in a new piece of technology, or they're trying to sort of diversify their portfolio, and they're saying, well, what other products or services can I offer?
Mm-hmm.
Something like this and following through will allow you to do that go or no go. Because like you and I have experienced with all those failures, if I had a way to evaluate them clearly, I probably wouldn't have done some of the things I did.
Right. Very true. So
Yeah.
within number 8, then when you're working, say, let's just in your mind in the last 3 or 4 projects you've worked on, where do you find, is there a trend on where the biggest areas of opportunity are, or is it all over the map?
Opportunity in what regard?
What do you find you're helping entrepreneurs with the most? Is it something? Are there certain areas more than regular, or is it just there's always something to be improved somewheres?
I think it's all over the board.
Yeah. Okay.
I think a lot of people, especially when we start looking at an economic downturn, they're reevaluating what they're actually spending their money on.
Mm.
So some of the, people are saying, well, before I grow or before I decide what I'm going to do next, I need to get organized. And so there's been a lot of that. I am getting because I worked as a business broker, and I still do succession planning with a brokerage, I do get a lot of questions about, exit.
Okay. Yep.
And people saying, I've got to take it, get myself in a position where I can look at what the future might look like. So that's been happening quite a bit too. But at the end of the day, I think our biggest headache is our people.
Really? Okay.
And I often get a lot of questions, and I'm not a specific HR consultant, but writing policy and procedure manuals and working with government agencies and understanding requirements for being in business is half the battle. And I think sometimes that, here in New Brunswick, you look at the WorkSafe New Brunswick laws and regulations, it's silly things, but they're really big things.
Right.
Even the number of bathrooms you have to offer, it gets, petty ridiculous, but it's true. You have to be honest about it.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, before we wrap things up, I wanted to ask you, the Coaches Council. How have you been finding that? Is it something that you found has been beneficial for you? Or I was in the one of the councils for a couple of years, quite a while back when they first started. I got some of the speakers. I even got some sponsorship from some of the companies that were in there. So, how have you been finding it?
You know, I really wanted to start a blog or start sort of getting my voice out there, and I really wasn't sure what to do, and that opportunity came up. They contacted me, and I thought, this is something that I'd really like to be more involved in, and like I said, I've published a few articles. The speaker panels have been great because I'm allowed to contribute on expert panels with other coaches from around the world.
Yeah.
My international presence has grown more than I expected, which is really great.
Yeah.
And it's been a really great experience. I'm really pleased that I have now a portfolio of my own that I can share too, of different things that I've contributed on or written.
Right.
I don't think there's a wrong, but I definitely wouldn't have gotten my blog the reach that it did.
Right. Well, we're also going to find you soon enough in the Enterpriser magazine. The first issue is going to be unveiled at the Enterpriser conference, so we're really excited about that too. Sara, it's been a fantastic chat. I really appreciate you joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to having you at the Enterpriser conference in April, so we can get you up on the stage and hear. I can give this knowledge that you have to an even larger group of people.
I'm super excited to be involved. Thanks so much, Liam.
Not a problem. Thanks very much. We'll chat again soon. Okay.
Okay.